Cool. Very nice to meet you, Sonia. My name is Harjas, and a little bit about myself and my story. So I was born in New Delhi in India, and actually grew up there until I was 17, and I then moved to the US to do my bachelor's in computer science. Always interested in the sciences, the
Mhm.
math, and been quite. So yeah, great time. Studied there.
Awesome.
Eventually got a job in the US working
But
there.
if we're talking about your
Yeah,
studies and your
yeah,
university time, Harjas, I also saw that you
yeah.
were a part of a Bangla group,
That's
and
right.
I
Yeah,
personally love that so much. So if you want to talk
yeah.
about more about your cultural background and how you were able to bring it to your experience
Yeah.
in the US, I think I would really love to hear more about that as well.
Yeah, 100%. So, I'm from New Delhi, but I'm culturally Punjabi, right? And we have actually a folk dance called Bhangra,
I love
which
that.
I've
Yeah.
kind of seen growing up in all sorts of popular media and
Mhm.
also like in parties, right? I've seen my kind of elders, do a sort of the routine, not exactly like
Yeah.
how it's supposed to be, but yeah, kind of grown up seeing that. And surprisingly, when I went to the US, there was like a huge Bhangra scene there in
Mhm.
colleges and universities. They had their own kind of intra-college competitions. And from very early on, I really just wanted to be a part of that. I was like, wow, this is like really
Yeah.
cool. These guys are fun. They
Mhm.
compete hard. And then their social events were honestly some of the best.
I can
So I
only.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah. So I auditioned with them
Mhm.
in my first year. Got rejected. Yeah, wasn't good enough.
Right.
Clearly wasn't up to the
Mhm.
standard. But then I made a few friends in the team who then started helping me out on the side. They were
Mhm.
like, look, you're a cool guy. We think you should make a great addition to the team. So we'll kind of help you
Yeah.
out. So then I practiced with them a bit, and in my second year, finally I auditioned again, and I got selected. And there were actually A teams, B teams, and there was this whole kind of
Wow.
like structure to the teams. They were super competitive.
It's very
And initially, I
hardcore
was
routine, right?
oh, it's like a hardcore cardio. It's like a high intensity interval training
Nice.
for sure.
So you got
Yeah,
basically all your gym, all your health, all your lifestyle through joining this sort of a Bangla group, and also like a bunch of
yeah.
friends, of course.
Or so for a
Mhm.
year. In my third year, Bhangra was life. Like that's like all we did. We were just competing,
Mhm.
eating healthy, practicing, and going to competitions.
Love
That's like
that.
literally our life for
Yep.
4 years. So yeah, we competed. We made some lifelong friends. Actually, that became like a really strong kind of bond
Mhm.
because we would travel together in kind of groups, and also made friends in other colleges across the states who were also performing the dance routines.
No, the reason why I actually touched upon this is because, like when people move abroad, right, you're moving into a complete, sort of a zone that you're not really comfortable in. You might have some mutual friends, people who you know, and they know someone that you might want to connect with. But it's such an uncomfortable zone to be in, right? Whether you're studying abroad, working abroad. So that's why I wanted to bring in that aspect, like how you were able to, sort of bridge that gap with your culture. And since you love Bangla and it became your life and you found friends and you also sort of, had 3 years at least in university that you were fully involved with it. So I really love that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no worries.
Awesome. But if we can talk about more about like how you got into the work part, because I'm not sure, was it hard for you to find your first job? What was your vision? Like, let's say when you were moving from India, like, okay, Harjas, like, this is what you want to be. Because sometimes, when we move abroad, we're like, "Ghar nahi jana वापस." I need to stay here and I need to make
Yeah.
something for myself. There's so much pressure already, like on top of you. So how were you able to tackle that? And what were your goals back then?
Yeah, I mean, so when I was studying, I really just was looking for some kind of industry experience. I
Mhm.
thought, like studying in projects in college is one thing, but then the reality of working with people in like an organization, the challenges that would come along with that would be completely different.
Mhm.
So from almost like my second year, I think I started looking at internship programs and co-op positions that would allow me to kind of enter the industry sooner
Right.
and gain some valuable experience. And I think during my junior year, which is the third year, I managed to get an internship at Deutsche Bank, and
Mhm.
then also managed to intern at another cloud storage company called NetApp,
Mhm.
where I was a software engineer. So I was working on backend cloud systems,
Mhm.
and I think that really exposed me to the industry and what it takes to succeed there. And naturally, I think that makes you also a more attractive
Mhm.
candidate for full-time roles, right? And I think as an international student, you definitely need like some internships to kind of separate you out from the
Mhm.
crowd if you're looking for a full-time role.
Yep.
So that really helped. And fortunately, after I graduated, my company that I interned with, Deutsche, offered me a full-time role which is what then I worked with for the next couple of years.
Nice. But then I really want to know, like, how were you able to like take that experience from a corporate environment into the world of
Yeah,
startups? Because you kind of stayed in the fintech world, right? You went from Deutsche to,
yeah,
was it Revolut right after?
yes,
Yes.
yes, that was.
Right. So you went from
So
like corporate straight into the startup mindset where you have this, whole nature of autonomous teams and a complete sort of a different culture as well that you're working in. So how was that for you?
I think it goes back to like what I really deeply wanted to do, and I think from
Mhm.
very early on, I wanted to have my own company. Like it
Right.
just goes
Okay.
back to that, and
Mhm.
I think I was just waiting for the right opportunity, the right time, and I think sooner rather than later, I knew that that was going to happen. So I think also what changed was my geography, right? So I was based in the U.S., then I moved to London, was working for Deutsche here, but I think one thing that I learned when I moved to London was how the neobanks were kind of coming around in the
Very
fintech
true.
space. Like when I was here, I was able to use Apple Pay on the tube,
Mhm.
which in the US you were buying like kind of paper tickets at that time on the New York subway. So I felt like something cool. And another personal experience was when I moved here, I needed to open a bank account and I couldn't until I had like a permanent address because I
Very
was living
true.
in
Yep.
Airbnb.
Yep. Mhm.
But Revolut solved that problem for me. So one of my friends told me, hey, you should just open a Revolut
Mhm.
account and you'll be able to kind of transact day to day.
Right. Okay.
And I was like, wow, this is a really cool product, solves a real problem,
Mhm.
and I really really wanted to work there. I
I
thought
love
like
that.
this is the
I love
kind of
that.
product and company I wanted to work at. So that's how I ended up there. There was a retail trading role that I was
Mhm.
eyeing because I think in the US I was exposed to equity trading with Robinhood, and hadn't come across something similar in the UK and Europe, and I felt like
Mhm.
this was one of a kind, first time product in this region, and I definitely was super excited to be a part of that.
Awesome. But then I would really want to touch upon exactly like you mentioned, right? The options that you have available in the US for investing are completely different from what's available, let's say, in the UK, EU. And if we go further to, let's say, the Asian countries, that's a completely different scenario in terms of investing. And even though right now in the media, we do see that there's more focus on the American standardized way of investing, which obviously is not applicable to each and every one of us, right? Which is why we have, let's say, the Revolut, we have Lightyear, we have Shares, we have all of these companies that are coming up, and then we have GoTrade, let's say in Singapore. All of these companies sort of trying to solve similar problems, but in different locations, right? So I really want to talk more about that experience. Like, how was it for you when you first started investing yourself? And what made you choose, let's say, the platforms that you decided on? How much did you start off?
No, for sure. I think obviously investing behaviors are very, very different.
Mhm.
They have a huge kind of influence from like culturally as well.
Exactly.
I think
Yep.
in my culture, like I guess we were taught from a very early age to be conscious about like savings, making
Mhm.
sure that we save. And I think once I started working full time, part of my attention was like, okay, how do I save money? That was the
Yep.
first problem because living in a city, you tend to have high cost of living. So the
Mhm.
first challenge was saving. Once I was able to save, then naturally the next segue was, okay, what do I do with these savings, right? Because they're just sitting in an account. So
Mhm.
naturally talking with people in your friends, close friends circle, a lot of people advised me that, hey, there's this like trading app, Robinhood at the time in the US, you should open this and, give it a try. And I think I started a Robinhood account there, started trading. But again, I think the problem was understanding where to invest in. And I
Mhm.
think even now, 99% of the people, like the same problem comes to
Yep.
the front line is like, what should I put money in? Like, I
Mhm.
don't know what to invest in, right? And I think that didn't change. But what changed was addressing this problem in a different market. So when I came to the UK, this kind of a product and service did not exist. So I felt like at least like that market existed here, and democratizing access to equity markets was a problem that had to be solved in this
Mhm.
region. And that's, I think, what Revolut Trading was able to accomplish as a very, very early player to do that, not only in the UK, but across
Yep.
Europe. And
Mhm.
I kind of helped in that journey. So that was where kind of I was exposed to retail trading, and obviously
Mhm.
working on a trading product, I educated myself a lot about the
Yeah.
investing space,
Mhm.
and even understanding the users that were using the product. Again, the same problems came to light where people did not know what to buy and sell.
Mhm. Mhm.
And really the problem was based that it was like a lack of education, lack of understanding of financial markets. And that's where the concept and the idea of a social investing platform kind of, got inserted
Mhm.
in my head, where I was like, I think if we allow people to invest with their close friends and family, they would naturally trust what these people
Exactly.
are buying
Yep.
or be able to at least discuss the rationale behind investment
Mhm.
decisions, which would make us more educated and better informed investors together.
I
That's kind
honestly
of
love
where
the
it started.
idea so much. Really, like honestly, because for example, if I can share a little bit about my journey of investing, which hasn't been too long, but I started 2 years ago, it was because, I heard it from my friends. And normally it's always like that. You hear it from someone who's super close to you, you can trust. And the first investment you make is also sort of, like you're putting it on them. You're like, I'm investing this because of you. And if it goes down, you go down with it. So you have sort of these dynamics within your friend groups, right? But I'm really glad that you're sharing more about, how you sort of came up with that idea in terms of having a social network around investing, accessible to people regardless of where they are, regardless of how much they have, regardless of the purchasing power, giving them a connection to the other side of the world where they can invest in companies abroad, even if they're not located there.
Yeah, great question. And I think to answer that, I just want to say that we are working aggressively to get
Mhm.
this product in the hands of as many people as possible. I think the product experience that we've crafted, we cannot wait for this to be in the hands of like millions and millions of users across different
Yep.
geographies. Because at no point in time were we kind of building this for one region. I
Mhm.
think because of kind of reg and compliance reasons, we've managed to launch in the UK first, which is great
Mhm.
because I
Yep.
think it allows us to kind of test our product
Exactly.
thoroughly, understand which parts of it are working well, where do we need to iterate and learn. So
True.
that's been great. But I think we've already kind of had a lot of lessons in the product journey, and we can't wait until all the new things that we're adding, which will supercharge the experience, to be
Mhm.
live across the world. And we're working day and night to kind of make that happen.
Awesome. But I also want to really know about the challenges of starting something on your own,
Yep.
considering, let's say, again, moving from the corporate world to the startup world, kind of, getting involved in the new culture and how it's so different in both environments, and then moving forward to starting something on your own, because you're also the co-founder at Shares. So I would really love to know how, let's say, did you even come up with the idea? One. Two, finding the co-founding team, which is an essential part of building anything as a startup, and then moving on to prototyping, finding the right user, talking to the users, and making sure that okay, this is the right fit.
Yeah, for sure. I think the corporate bubble kind of burst as soon as I entered Revolut, right? It was a kind of very, very exciting training ground to scale ups, working quite hard and aggressively to achieve targets. And I think that education was super important in understanding
Mhm.
how to build things, build products, great products, and building them quickly. So the whole life cycle of iterating fast, learning from your mistakes, and shipping quickly was something that I understood there. I think
Mhm.
after that, again, the kind of itch in me was to try it myself. I think that
Right.
was always there. I think it was just to kind of be able to craft an experience that I thought could address the problem space in a different way was something that I always wanted to do. And I think one thing I'd like to highlight here is that I think as a social investing product, I had never thought about just building a trading product because
Mhm.
I'd already done that. The
Yep.
goal was to design and architect a product from scratch, which was built to be social. So social products have concepts such as like like user profiles, ability to find other people, be able to communicate with them. So those were things we kept in mind from day one when we started designing this. And that's how we kind of differentiate from a lot of products where social is usually an afterthought. It's something that is added on top of something that
Mhm.
is not supposed to be social, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's kind of how in my mind I was thinking about building this experience differently. Then about starting out, obviously, I think it's a lot about like talking to people. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
like this is my idea. Like, hey, what do you think? And I think slowly when you kind of gather enough like feedback, then you take it more seriously, and then you eventually start to prototyping and finding the people you will work with. All right. And I think super fortunate to have met my co-founders, and I think we all align on the vision that there was this problem space that needed to be addressed. And I think one of my co-founders, Ben, he was in the US. He had similar problems. He had used Robinhood with his friends. But again, the experience was single player. It was just like alone. It was like you do it, you buy, sell, but you can't really do anything much more than that. So once we all aligned, I think the next steps were fairly simple. They were a lot about working on a prototype, getting kind of first-hand feedback on something that, okay, is this going to be a valuable thing? Is this going in the right direction? As soon as we received positive feedback in that direction, we kind of doubled down on the product and the company, and there's been no looking back ever since.
If I can really get more into the idea of investing, because the series is more to get people in their 20s to learn how to start investing and to actually start as well with whatever amount they have, regardless of, because I feel like sometimes people think you need a certain amount to actually start investing, whether it's in stocks, ETFs, real estate, and then, the list continues. So considering, let's say, your journey as an investor and also building a product that's all about social investing, I really want to hear more about, let's say, if you were talking to an audience who has no clue, is a little scared considering, the recession and everything else that we're in right now. What do you have to say in terms of how to just get as much knowledge as possible? Where should we look out for resources? How do we start? Do we actually need a certain amount to start investing?
Yeah, great question. I think the biggest innovation that kind of happened in retail trading is the fact that you can buy stocks from as little as like £1, €1, $1, right? Gone are the days where you would have to buy kind of a full stock of Amazon and pay like a ridiculously high commission on that. I think that's really, really changed the game. So now what this does is it allows literally anyone to become a shareholder from as little as £1. So there's literally no excuse anymore to not kind of start at least, So the line to start has definitely become easier to get to. I think the other thing really comes down to the fact that investing apps traditionally have felt complex. I think the domain itself is complicated. And I think when you get an investing app on your phone, your first thought is like, wow, like, I don't know how this is going to work, or it's going to be complicated, or I don't know how, or what. It's very overwhelming. And I think the way we've crafted the shares experience is very much with the angle of being simple, easy, and friendly. We just want to change the way.
The simplicity of it. I really like that focus and just, keeping it as simple as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think a big change is because I think we're building it for, like, we're not traders, like, we're kind of like everyday people using the product ourselves. So there's definitely that bias of keeping things very, very simple. We always ask ourselves twice, whenever like there's something where we could add a chart, do we really need to add a chart here?
Exactly.
Will the person really care about a chart at this point?
Yeah.
Or can we communicate it in simple terms? So I think that focus has been key. I think it's important when a person gets your product for it to feel friendly, especially when it's in a space where the domain is complex. And also social products generally, they have a different kind of feel to them. And the bar is extremely high. Like if I'm building a chat product today, immediately the bar outside is like Telegram, WhatsApp, with great experiences. And if my product's chat doesn't feel like that, like I'm right away like below that, And our goal is to at least be there and be even better than what these products have put out there. So I think that's what I feel about the product experience in general. But regarding like kind of courses and education, I firmly believe that there's no better way than by doing, right? And the way you can kind of hedge your risk is by doing it on a product where you can see others. You can kind of model your approach on other probably more experienced investors or your close friends. And I think that's what Shares is delivering. It's delivering an experience where anyone can come in, start from as little as £1, but then they don't have to make that decision alone. They can make it with the guidance and support of the community. And I think community has not been leveraged so far in the way we're doing it at Shares. And I think we envision this to be very, very powerful, especially as we try to make this a positive experience for all new investors.
I love that ambitious vision. And I really, really hope and support that you guys go until the end, make it as accessible as, let's say WhatsApp, make it as simple as well, so that everybody can, one day maybe, invest from wherever they are. And yeah, I think that would be like the ideal, situation to be in. And I'm hoping that you guys get there. But yeah, one last question from my side, Harjas, would be if you were to give advice to people in their 20s on, let's say, how should they invest their time in, what would that be?
I think there's like no better way to invest their time apart from things that they're passionate about. I think like really like it just boils down to what do you enjoy doing? And
Mm-hmm.
I think once you realize your passion, just doubling down on that can kind of like take you to the next level. So I generally think, like if you have that foresight already, if you understand like this is something that you really enjoy doing in
Mm-hmm.
your 20s, it's like the perfect time to kind of double down on getting and spending time on that passion to really become the best at that craft.
Awesome. And one last, what should they invest their money in? And I'm not talking about a specific stock pick or something that people will be like, oh yeah, he's going to say something. No, but yeah, what should they generally invest their money in?
I think here generally I think it depends on like your financial profile,
Mm-hmm.
the size of the investment. There's like so many factors here.
Yep.
But generally, if you're someone who's getting started, probably like something that is like a balanced portfolio that
Mm-hmm.
allows you to have like moderate risk, which just gives you kind of a flavor of investing is probably the best bet. Just so that you can kind of understand where your money is going, how
Mm-hmm.
is it growing, how is it kind of going down. Also helps solve kind of for that education. So I think that's kind of what I would say around that.
Awesome. Thank you. But yeah, thank you so much, Harjas, for today and for taking out your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you, going from your Bhangra days to now your shares. And I'm hoping that you keep doing as much Bhangra as you can as soon as you start hitting those milestones for shares as well. So yeah, kudos to you on that. And thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
You too. Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.